Welcome, everybody, to the Rude Awakening podcast. And we're feeling a little bit low on gas, aren't we? What's going on?
I thought you were telling me.
Oh, now I'm the expert. Shit. No, it's been a strange couple of days, strange week, both with really big ups and downs, but mostly what we talked about last week. The passion is there, the ideas are just raining from the sky. Um, we're really seeing the relation between acting on your passion and letting the outcome go, or letting the dynamics or the feedback come to you instead of chasing after it. But then again, the last couple of days, waking up like literally a train ran over me, or feeling so tired, or feeling such a big energetic shift, and then putting a lot of things between what I think I can do, or if I feel like this, I can't do it, or I need this first in order to move, or I need this amount of money to do something. So we really discovered the last couple of days there's still a lot that the human puts in between their passion and the path to executing it, right? And that's a weird dynamic that I thought I would be over.
It's a lie.
It's all a lie.
All of it.
Yes. We'll be ending this podcast right now and do something else with our lives. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, welcome everybody. We hope that your week was just as fruitful and insightful or entertaining as ours. Walking the talk, I think, is one of the qualities that Jonathan and I share. And it's interesting to see, when you say magic or bust, it all sounds pretty dandy. And then living up to that and holding ourselves and each other accountable for it, that's where the fun begins. And that's also where the resistances come up. And, wanting to be in a different place, that's constantly something I have to speak to myself kindly about, because I want to have slept differently. I want my body to feel amazing. I want to be in a really good mood. I want to be inspired. I want to have a lot of wisdom that I can share here. I want to have a lot of clarity in my
I
communication.
want to be able to pay my rent this month.
You do? Weirdo. So, how the status quo can sometimes fool you into believing that you're less than. So we were thinking about what would be a great topic for this week. And what came through for me was permission granted. So that's going to be our topic. We're going to be your soul's advocate, dear listener, and we are going to grant you permission. Because that's what we find our moments of uncertainty, insecurity, incapability sometimes comes down to just waiting for permission, waiting for somebody to say, "Oh yeah, you've got it. You can do it," and I totally believe in you. When ultimately we know we have to do that for ourselves.
And I can already hear the reactions on our very discerning listeners. We're not going to really grant you permission because we can't. You could, like Sandra said, you can only give yourself permission, really. But sometimes, god damn it, it's nice to hear it from the other. And we talked a lot about having others as a witness, or as accountability partners, or buddy system, whatever you want to call it. But it is nice to sometimes hear from another. You're there, you're done, your journey is over, you've learned everything you want to learn. Now you're the magnet that attracts whatever you want to experience in your life, and you don't need anybody's permission. Permission is granted. You are your own permission. But sometimes the mind, or the dualistic nature of your mind, tricks you into thinking that I need to do this before I can do that. I need to have this before I can have that, or I need to be this before I can be that. And it's still the kind of the ruins of old dualistic living, right?
And waiting for the stars to align, waiting for opportunities uh, to be visible, rather than saying, how do I want to experience my life now?
And it's interesting watching last night. Of course, I couldn't sleep because of all the energies, and listening to a quote of Edgar Tolle, which usually puts me right to sleep. So it was kind of a conundrum in itself. But he also said, like, if you're stressing about something or if you're waiting for something, you've placed your present in the future or in the past. And I find myself doing that, less and less. But the whole reason for this topic this week is that we catched ourselves and each other doing that, meaning me and Sandra. So it's interesting topic that we could like, okay, let's unpack what we ran into, and what we feel surely a lot of other people might run into as well.
And I think a few times in our talks the past weeks, you were speaking of how important it is to speak kindly to yourself,
Yeah.
right? And I think the PTSD and the exhaustion of that self-discovery journey coming to this point for what we share a lot, you and I, um, you're exhausted. You're kind of at a place where it's all within. You can't look on the outside for any more solutions. You know why you're here, what you want to experience, and how you want to apply things into your life. But it would be really nice, if somebody, the way that I speak to my dog, the way that I speak to my puppy, oh, big stretch. Yeah, yeah. Wow, you can do it. Come on, come on. It would be so great to have that, that narrative in my head rather than the narrative of, oh, I feel shit. I've got a stiff neck today. And
Yeah, I really deserve some R&R. I really deserve this or that. It's like, it's easy to say when you're completely energized and clear, and then it's really easy to stick to those principles. But
yeah.
I think we're really writing the rule book on, and we said this before also with Rude Awakening. Uh, being in balance is great when you're sitting on a mountaintop meditating for 4 years, but how can you be in balance with two screaming kids in the Albert Heijn on Saturday, right? That's in the supermarket. That's a different thing entirely. So I think we're kind of writing the rule book on to be in the center of yourself and your passion and present without all of the old things that you believed you needed.
Well, it's going beyond the limited experience. And if you're never in a limited experience, how can you go beyond?
It's a good one,
So,
yeah.
um, and it's a choice, like magic or bust last week. I think we also came to the conclusion that bust isn't really an option. So it's really just magic. So coming to that
We
place
have
of,
two choices: magic or magic.
yeah, exactly. I'll have to think about that one. Um, now that that is clear, the focus is clear, we've cleared the pathway of dependencies, to make sure that, it's not outside anymore, it's here. How do I now talk myself kindly into, I have permission, I don't need to wait for anything or anyone. Oh yeah, but I feel shit. Okay, well, get your act together too. Why wait? Like, what are the stories we're still telling ourselves of why we can't do things or feel a certain way, when we know the key to manifestation is to already feel it, like it's already here.
Yeah, like we discussed last week, is it from a place of passion? And do you need anybody else to feel that passion? Yes or no? And if it's a yes, and if it's very expansive and not contracted, if it's not in the future, if there's no agenda or a path towards it, more this is what I want to experience from this passion, and now I'm like a, like a like a like a child in discovery, like, oh, how is it gonna land on my doorstep? But I've already created it from a good place, and I let go of the outcome, and now the feed, and I've taken an action on it, the first step, and now I'm letting it get back to me. I get the feedback around that subject, come in when it needs to, and that sounds really, really nice, but then you put stuff gradually between it, like this is taking too long, or it's not happening, or I'm getting 6 no's where actually I said something from passion from a yes place, and I'm getting 6 no's. What the fuck's that all about? But you're getting the no's, you're getting the feedback, you're getting the movement from taking the first action. And I think a lot of the times I didn't even take the first action. I laid in my bed or sat on my couch or stared at the horizon on the beach, proclaiming all these wonderful, oh, I would want to experience this, and that's amazing. Never proclaiming it out loud or to another person as a witness, and also never really taking the action on it. An action without needing the permission from somebody else or a situation to be correct or the stars need to align. I like to do this. It makes me happy. I'm going to assume it's already happened, and now I'm going to figure out how it happened. Instead of, I want to experience this, now I'm going to proclaim it to somebody, but that somebody has to grant me permission or agree with me or do something. That's always a covert little step that I proclaim it to somebody, but inadvertently wanting somebody's help. And if they don't give it, then I'm right back to square one.
Was diluting it, also diluting that clarity. Because if I assume that it's already decided because I made a choice, this is who I'm going to be. Because for me, it's much more broader than, I can also translate it into smaller things, but for me, it's more of a broad choice of how I want to live. If I assume that everything that I thrive on, that makes me happy, that excites me, that sort of facilitates all of my qualities, all of the things that I'm here for, that's a logical consequence of me being here. So it's already here. Now, am I going to talk myself out of it because I had a shitty night? Or because somebody else says, no, but you can't do that. So taking that ownership of it, not asking anybody else for permission, but giving myself the constant reminder of, I've made that choice already. I don't need to remake that choice. I don't need to keep ordering the same or different dishes.
But what causes the almost the dilution over time? And it could be anything from insecurity or impatience or thinking you see outcomes or feedback come back that they don't belong to the original choice, but actually it belongs perfectly to the original choice. It just literally releases a lot of things that you don't have any need for, but the human mind interprets it as like, yeah, but I ordered this and now I'm getting like 4 things that are counter. It isn't counter. It's just that your human has a very limited idea of what you ordered and what the outcome is going to be. But what do you think, in your case, in your life, what does the dilution look like, or where does it come from? Because again, we say this a lot. Like we made Rude Awakening the movie. We pretty much live the standard of what we talk about in the movie, and still we're dealing with this. So I think that's a very good sort of setup for like, shit, if we're dealing with it and a lot of our listeners dealing with it, when is it going to stop? Like, when we're finally going to be at a place where it's sort of instant or sort of.
I sometimes think we don't really want it. Like, we do, the clarity of the choice is there. The connection to self is there. The knowingness is there. But I sometimes think that making things more difficult than they are is also a little bit the delay practice that we put into the mix. I know that that's true for me, that I talked about that last week, saying there's a part of me that kind of enjoys the stubbornness, that kind of enjoys not getting over myself, the complacency or the laziness. Being in this mode seems easier than saying, okay, I'm now just going to make a movement, which I know already what makes me feel good. I know already what gets my energies moving and what will put me into a better place. And still, and there's nobody holding me back. I'm not in a prison. I'm not, I'm not subject to, thank goodness I live in a country where I am free to do anything I want to unless I hurt somebody, so the stories I tell myself why I can't do it or why it's so difficult, it's that muscle memory that is still active in the back of my mind because I think I need to dumb myself down. I need to put a delay into it because who knows? Am I really ready for it? Am I really ready for magic? Or is my life ready for magic? What if everything turns upside down? Or, now all of a sudden my kids don't want to have anything to do with me anymore. Like I lose the connections that I have and that I hold so dearly. So in a way, we rather not take the last step to see the clarity show up in our life because we're afraid that we're not ready to handle it. How do you see that?
Yeah, I completely concur. Yeah, I think it's something else popped in when you said that, but I feel for me that's very, very true. It's like there's certain things that I know don't make me feel good, yet I stubbornly do them, keep doing them, because it's almost like, yeah, but I have control over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a slight numbing mechanism as well, so I don't have to feel what I really, because I know exactly what I need to do. So the wisdom is so strong that I can't even fool myself anymore. So everything has to be deliberate. So just sitting on Instagram brain dead for 3 hours, I can do it. I know it's not good for me. I know I could be doing 10 things that make me feel better, but those 10 things feel like work. It feels like a chore. Oh, now I have to sit. It's almost like, don't take my free time or my play time
Yeah.
away from me. It's really sort of childish.
And exactly that Instagram example, I can lose all of my energies looking at the screen. And part of that is a lot of fun, dog videos, always fantastic. Um, but then I go really, I go off balance. I go into that complete complacent, lazy mode. And then I keep watching my Instagram feed with motivational talks and with, like,
So you put yourself in the most lazy form and then you watch, yeah.
and then I get annoyed about, the things that I've heard 5 million times and, I could do this so much better. When it is a very deliberate action that I'm taking to dumb myself down.
Yeah. And is it also, I mean, this is how it works for me. I dumb myself down or I watch stupid shit or whatever. And I know why, because there's a lot of emotions, a lot of feeling, a lot of wisdom coming through because I'm really ready in this part of the journey. I'm really ready to live it, ready to completely throw the switch, like we said last episode, magic or bust, to make a huge step into a completely different life, or at least a different life in terms of how I create. Um, but it feels like the last bit of control. It's almost like the human doesn't want to relinquish it, because even though I don't know, I do things that are not good for me, the human is in control. Well, this is it's the last thing that me as a human can control. And the reason I'm saying this, and I got this while you were speaking, the moment I really create, and in some circles you say the magi or the magician or the master, whatever you want to put on that, but like create from inside out, from inner passion, inner knowingness, nost sometimes people call it, and letting the outcome free, but let everything come to you. So now you're the magnet, and whatever you set out, you attract, instead of you have to plot a path, do all the steps, or earn all the steps to get there.
Which makes it tangible for the mind.
Because it's steps it can
Yeah.
control, or it's steps it can procrastinate, or it's steps that it can lament. Oh my God! But there's this person on this fourth step that's holding me back. Nobody's holding you back. It just looks that way. While and we had some really cool examples this week creating, our next steps and our next moves, which came really easily, which just literally fell from the sky, but tied into a lot of stuff we've been talking about for the last 8 years. But none of those things, except for deep, deep, deep passion and a sense of that's what I want to be doing next or the rest of my life, you can't control shit.
No.
I can't control the outcome. I can't control the money flow. I can't.
When it comes here, how it
No,
gets here.
I can just say that what makes me really, really, really happy. I have no clue how to do it. And actually, it turns out a day later, we did know how to do it. So that sort of fell into our laps. But I didn't know that before. So my human has no fucking control except over the execution part of it. So the impulse comes in, hey, you need to write a document or you make an infographic that shows how this whole thing could work. And I had it almost like a mirage in my head, like a little snapshot. And I worked it in yesterday and one morning, and in a couple of hours, basically I had the whole plan done. So my human was very happy that, oh, now it can actually execute something. But the original idea wasn't my human. It was almost like a hologram that popped into my head, and then I.
So again, it just changes the order completely. The human is then, or the mind is then in charge of translating the intuition, translating the impulse, translating that knowingness. And that is such a counterintuitive step, rather than thinking, if I just start controlling A, B, the logical consequence is C.
Yeah.
It's doing it, completely reversing the whole process and putting the human into a different position in the line, and still absolutely necessary and absolutely requires that mental clarity of the human.
Like Andrew said,
structure.
The human is not the CEO anymore,
Yeah.
or the mind is not the CEO anymore. It's the
And
the clerk.
sometimes it pops up and it says, okay, now would be a great time if you just, because you deserve this, right? You deserve this bottle of wine. You deserve this 3 hours of mindlessly scrolling Instagram. And
if you really deserve this, because there's also sometimes where I just make a choice and do it, and I don't really go that empty, but because I allow myself to do it. But it's very rare. Normally it's fun the first 10 minutes, and then I just feel my energy just go down the toilet. But I kind of glossed over my own question to you, by all the answers that are coming in. What do you think makes that or puts that delay in? So you feel something that you really want to experience through passion, you set it out there either by taking the first step or making somebody else a witness or both, and then sort of these things creep in, the mind taking over, cause and effect, timelines, agendas, procrastination, obstacles. What in this stage of the game makes those things pop up, you think?
just having too much old reference, that it needs to be in a certain order, that it needs to come in a certain way, and I can be really enthusiastic and follow my intuition and knowingness and know that that's right, and then somehow you just go, okay, so I've put myself out there, I've applied myself, I've said this to this person, now what? So I think it's not in the first or the second step, it's more than in the wanting to witness it unfold. There's still an idea that it needs to come at a certain time in a certain way,
So it's
through a
controlling.
certain person.
So it's controlling the dynamics.
Because ultimately we are in this interactional experience called life, where we use the other.
Because otherwise, why stay on the planet, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's I can use others for very pleasant experiences, but I also use others to blame, to fool myself into believing that there's a certain dependency or whatever. So again, sovereignty works fantastically if I sit on the mountaintop and I'm not interacting with life or other people. But as soon as I as I have the clarity within myself, I try to apply it into life, then I'm already back again into something that the mind knows how to do.
And thinks it knows how to do.
Yeah, I mean, 1,274 lifetimes.
It's a very exact number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's how my mind likes to think.
No, and I love, we had some pre-talks before this podcast on the kitchen table. Sandra's legendary kitchen table, which will be auctioned off as a
As a witness, as a
as
photo
a
witness.
what do you call those things? As an ancient relic on this journey. Is that in previous episodes and all of the talks we were having offline about asking people for what you need. And we were really into that. Like, be clear what you feel. So it's not an idea, but it's a feeling of passion, and then ask people that could help you what you need. And that was great, but there is, what we've also felt, there is also a little bit of an asterisk, is that there is an inherent problem in that, or there could be, if you basically ask somebody to say, like, I want to have a witness, I want to have a witness to my passion, but hidden within that asking the other is permission, but that person now needs to tell me yes. I ask very clearly, I need this, this, and this, and this. And we play the card of like, no, but it's really open and we have no agenda. But half the time there is an agenda. And we kind of know it too. But we said, like, now I'm being really assertive, and that person isn't responding because like nothing worked the last
So that's basically
months.
spiritual passive aggressiveness, right? Yeah. and arrogance,
Yeah.
entitlement.
Yeah.
Now I've communicated and I was completely clean, but now the ball's in that court and you see it's not coming around.
Yeah. And I found that fascinating because the more I agree, again, that legendary talk that we had a month ago about worth, about value. I'm the brand, I'm the value, I'm the light, I'm the creator of my own reality. It's really starting to dawn on me what that means. Even my humans start to sort of slowly grasp it. But there is an inherent entitlement. Now I'm going to be very clear, ask for what I want, and then the world would fall on my feet. Oh my God, the standard spoke. And I'm like, no, it's still playing it through the outside. It's still the human dressing up as the spirit, or the human dressing up as the standard, playing the spiritual game, doing the same fucking thing as it used to. It's just dressed nicer. And since we're in the business of magic or bust, so deconstructing everything to the absolute minimum, or to your own center point, your own passion, your own light. And it doesn't mean suffering. That doesn't mean another tour of duty, another, endless fucking journey. We're there. We don't have to do those things anymore. But it is about deconstructing the last little hooks on the outside. And then the moment those hooks are gone, and we've already seen it with some things where we know it was really clean, I'm not really so disturbed about the outcome. Or when the outcome doesn't come, I immediately know, there's cows in the background going, yes. Nothing like the cow oracle
It's the Moocast.
to the Moocast. No, and it's funny because when there's no agenda, I'm so open that I can also see, there's no feedback coming. So that person or that action needs some more time, or it just isn't working, and that's okay. Let's try something else. So it doesn't have the same annoyance as something that I said, I'm really clean about this. I'm so much passion, and I asked what I want. I was really assertive. And then it doesn't happen. There's always a little bit of, a little bit of pain, a little bit of like, yeah, but I deserve this, and it's not coming. And why does that person, this is a good one, why does that person not see the potential that I see?
Yeah. There must still be a step behind me, or, they're not there yet.
And it's the same dualistic game that I pretended to be out of. So in a way, I'm still playing it.
I think what's really interesting as I'm listening to you speaking, so the human would like to have permission. The human needs permission. Okay, so now, now it is magic since there is no bust. So permission is granted, fantastic. But what if that's not even a question anymore? It's more about also now taking the responsibility of fully showing up. So exchanging permission for responsibility. It is my responsibility. Why the fuck am I still here? It's not even so my human's gonna, yeah, but like I need proof and I need permission and I need to be, entitled and deserving of that shit. And really, I'm just playing that whole waiting game myself. I'm creating the whole tension, the friction between my choice and my experience of it.
I think that's fantastic. That's exactly what I feel is happening. And it's that old saying, better the devil you know, that it's kind of ironic that the human or the mental component or what we call the mind is asking for permission.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it is the one that gives permission. Because if the mind says, I don't have a clue what the fuck's going on, I'll probably never understand it, but I had enough reference to magic that I know when you get a hologram download or you get an image that I usually trust it. And then when I get to, work it out in details, that's a very nice, everything flows, everything is nice, but I don't understand it. But if the human mind doesn't give permission to the divine, we all know what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You can be it can be the greatest wizard, the greatest enlightened being on the planet. Fuck all is going to happen because that's kind of the irony. Because we're inhuman, your humanness, your mind has to grant permission to the divine. The moment it doesn't, the divine will just go, all right, you're the master here, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to do another round. It goes another round, around the sun, and I'm waiting until you're ready. But the irony is, the human is waiting for permission.
Yeah.
It's actually the one that gives it. So that, I think, is a really old dualistic irony. I think that's kind of what we're stuck in. And I think part of it is safety, because even though the mind makes very limited and usually very shitty decisions, it knows cause and effect. It knows when I do A, B, C, D, it will probably lead to E, F, and G. Most of the time now it doesn't, but it thinks it does. So it's really shitty. It's really archaic. It's really convoluted, small, and slow. But at least it knows if I do this, then probably the outcome is going to be dap, 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 dap. In magic, or let's call it magic, or working from your intuition or your wisdom, usually a thought pops in my head, an idea, which is the entire idea, and then I go, ooh, and then I deconstruct it. But I have no control when that idea pops into my head. It's there. And being kind to myself, doing the things that make me happy, like taking a walk in the forest, or eating healthy foods, or doing stuff that genuinely opens me up instead of closing me down, makes that process go faster or more fluid, or I can hear it better, but I can never control it. And that's something that the mind goes, look, I'm willing to grant you permission, but I have to know how it works.
Well, because you expect things to happen in the in-between of the choice and the experience. There's still a linear path between the two. There's still, okay, here's the choice and there's the experience. But there is a certain distance between it. And within that distance, for me, that's the comfort zone, and that's the resistances too. So it's interesting, really honestly observing myself, how I actually enjoy the things that I complain about.
Yeah.
So I like to say, like, oh, that's not mine and that's somebody else's fault or whatever, but it's still, that's that distance between A and B, the experience, for me that's the delay.
And I love that quote of anything happening in your life, you must enjoy it because otherwise it wouldn't be happening again.
Yeah.
And it's really true. There is also an inherent sort of mini addiction to even sort of drama stuff. Like there's just no drama in my life whatsoever. Really, there isn't. But it's like every once in a while I watch something dramatic on TV, or I have the choice to get really dramatic about something, which I don't really believe in. But it's almost like I almost miss it because it made me feel alive. It made me feel big ups, big downs, but at least I had a reference point. And now it's almost like you see it in a waveform. It used to be very up, very down, and I could appreciate the ups because the lows were also extremely deep. And now it's almost like a flat line. So it's almost like, oh, my humanness goes like, well, if that's my experience as a human, that's kind of boring.
So if the whole human experience is about the distance from A to B, if that's how you define yourself and feel yourself, would you even want to trade that in? Would you be ready to say, I'm giving permission to give up my comfort zone and just be in the experience now?
And you're giving up a type, I think, a type of humanness. And so, first of all, you're saying yes to I don't know what's going to happen. You're saying yes to a higher power, which is basically your own higher self. Okay, you handle it because I have no clue what's happening, but I can control anything. The big highs, the big lows stop, and before magic really comes into your life, there's a moment of where that line is pretty much flat, and you think, well, this is kind of not fun. It's
Well,
very
and again, the human observes it and has an opinion about
yeah,
it.
it's not
Because
fun.
when
It's
you
not
experience
fast.
it,
Yeah,
because when you're in the experience of that, you just go, there's nothing better. Like, you would never want to go back to anything else, but to be in that flow of synchronicity, of connection, of no resistance and just pure expression. But for the human, it's boring. That's why, you always said, yeah, I don't actually know if I really want to have that super spiritual experience within my life because, I'm not ready to just trade in my life for the harp on the cloud.
and what would be left of my human? Because there's all kind of some aspects that I like. There's funny and sarcastic and dark, and I love to play with that. Funny thing is, they have not gone. They just lost a lot of the need to be very dark
Mhm.
to feel something. Now it's more, a joke than anything else.
The need for contrast, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the full magic, and maybe that's it as well, the full blast of magic and synchronicity and wisdom, like over time, like experienced for a year. Like sometimes I remember in my past doing spiritual courses for when I was 21. And then in 10 years, maybe you have 3 or 4 spiritual experience where you go, oh my God. And it lasts like 1.6 seconds and it was the greatest orgasm you ever had or the greatest epiphany. And then you spend the rest of the 10 years after chasing
Chasing
it
it,
down.
yeah.
Now those periods are much longer. Uh, and if they're not, I know the dynamics behind it or how to get out of the way to get them back. But having experienced them for long, sustainable periods, I'm talking months and years, I don't think any of us have had that yet, or maybe the occasional one listening. Please let us know how you do it. But I think that's also scaring the human. So it did all these amazing, fantastic spiritual trips, it deconstructed the human. It did its homework 5 times over. Um, and now we're there. Now we're not on a journey anymore. We're at the finish line, looking a little bit confused. We know how it works. We know how the dynamics work. We even know how our human reacts to it. But now it's the allowing that to be your life, to be that in that state pretty much constantly. And I don't think we have that experience yet. So
No.
the human is kind of right in saying it's really great on paper, but show me the money. Show me
So
that's true, and not the same carrot on the stick of, well, now you have that experience 10 minutes a week instead of 10 minutes every 10 years. Yeah, it's progress, but it isn't exactly fun.
and maybe also hope plays a big role into that whole creating the tension. Because I'm a very hopeful romantic. I don't like the term hopeless romantic. I am a very hopeful person, so I have a lot of hope, and I'm very positive about knowing how the experience can be, how easy it can be, what synchronicities and everything. But it's almost, I've such big hope for it that I'm not ready to trade that hope for a reality that could be disappointing.
And what is hope but another idea? I mean, yes, it's can also be very it can also be free. I feel you can have hope for a better future or better, which is very sort of nondescript. But for me, usually hope also holds a lot of ideas. Oh, it's hope for a better future, and it looks like this. So I think again, it's control. It's the human waiting. Is it safe? Is it sustainable? Can I reproduce it? Can I trust it? It's still sort of like it's almost an analogy of the ship is leaving, like the magic boat, and it's going very slowly off the dock, and you have there's a window where you can jump back on it or decide to stay on the dock. And the dock is just industry and clouds and smog and but at least you know where everything is. The boat is leaving to God knows where. You can't really see the end destination, just that it's leaving. So maybe it's also being really nice to the human and saying, "Yeah, you're asked to bet the house and everything you know and stand for. If you want to experience magic, like we said last week, it's kind of a leap or like a do or die or like a leap or not leap scenario. You
And I think
can't do it in small steps.
those whole past years on that, coming more and more into the realization of I am that already, um, have been years of a lot of letting go, releasing, and also therefore creating a lot of space in my mind of stuff that I don't need to deal with anymore. But the mind is still the same size. So I'm now being invited into not thinking anymore. And that's scary for me, as I am, I pride myself to be very self-reflective. I pride myself to make the right choices and everything. So now what happens if all of those words that we are filling these talks with, all of the thoughts that I'm filling my mind with, that's also done. Like I'm noticing, how's that for you? And like how bored we sometimes also get of even talking about it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
The same loops,
Yeah.
and we just keep changing some analogies for even better analogies, but it's the same fucking
Yeah.
analogy. It's the same loop, and that's what I find to myself. And I have to sometimes be careful not to get harsh, because it's even my mind kind of knows that it's the same, because
Yeah.
like the analogy of all the roads. I've went into every alleyway about 10 times because I'm a stubborn mofo. So I really know the whole map. And now packaging as, no, this is a completely new avenue. And then she's basically like, no, it's the same street.
Yeah.
You just packaged it differently. Ah, shit. Because when I do choose something really new or just completely surrender to, I have a passion, and even waiting to take a step on that passion when it feels right. And the difference between, if is that a mental blockade? Am I just putting a lot of stuff in between to prevent myself from making a step because maybe there's disappointment, or what if it doesn't work out? I can't handle another disappointment, so I put all these things in between. But when it's really time to wait, and the passion is really pure, and there's not a lot of details on it, it's fine. I know it will be there, and then usually within hours, something pops in my head, or I sleep over it, and you're like, that's what I should be doing, and then I do it. There's not even a oh, I will be doing it tomorrow. I just literally find myself doing it.
Yeah.
So it's the beingness versus the doingness. or the thinking it versus the feeling it and being it. So I do know the difference. I do know when it's completely new and when it's the same old road.
It's the over mentalizing shit. Yeah,
So I get extra annoyed with myself, which then isn't really handy for the whole guilt and shame thing. When I make a decision which is completely informed by the old, and then I'm struggling with the steps and blaming other people, and I'm like, fucking hell! But this is the old, and I know it. Usually while I'm doing it, so there's not that what we had months or years ago where you do something, you get the outcome, it's not so nice, and then months later you realize what that was and how you prevented yourself from really experiencing magic. Now it's real time, sometimes even before you do something you kind of know already where this is going. So I can't sell my, which is also kind of what the human laments about or is sad about. I can't even sell myself the old tricks,
so it's tiring out the human
literally.
until it sort of gladly hands in that comfort zone of I'm creating more problems than there are. I'm creating more friction just because, I'm bored or whatever. But knowing that ultimately that has to go too. All of those, that whole distance that I'm putting in between me and just being in the experience of having it and being, like completely being fulfilled with that knowingness and just going out into life, this is, remember like all of the um stories and excuses why you can't go and go to a party or whatever. Oh yeah, no, it's muggles and it's like weird energy and I don't want to taint my purity or whatever, like all of those fucking stories.
Or have to look a certain way, and it's really nice with this podcast because that's exactly like whether we're at the top of the world or our heads fall off, we do this fucking
Yeah.
podcast. So I don't care if you feel, just cry about it on your podcast. At least you'll be sharing something vulnerable and personal, and maybe it helps others. But don't lay in bed. Don't pretend the world is ending or stopping because you have pain in your left foot. So it's all. I'm also very very bored with that part of myself. Putting all these things, and it's now that I think of it, it's so ironic that the human waits for permission, and it waits for permission on the outside, or permission for the stars to align, or even permission for the magic to show it one last time it's real, while it is the one that needs to give itself permission to let go. But
Yeah.
basically, it's only permission you need is the permission to be totally confused. So acknowledge the human part for what it is. It's a very confused clerk. It used to be the CEO. It got demoted. It doesn't know its head from its ass, and it's just acknowledge it. So that's being kind to yourself. It's completely confused, and then tell it gently. You are the only one that says, you know what? I give permission to surrender. I understand 1/1,000,000th of this story. You have my permission to just come in, and sometimes I will freak out and I'll revoke the permission. Be gentle, talk to me, because I'm completely confused. I'm sitting in my archive. None of the drawers open. Everything is all over the place. Nothing is alphabetical anymore.
Yeah.
So you ask it to surrender its last vestige of structure and logic. So be kind to it, and then say, well, relinquish it anyway.
It needs to unravel, I think. It needs to have that space to allow itself to think, to talk about it, to tire itself out and to come to that conclusion that, resistance is futile. And there's much better things ahead. So I think we very fittingly also set this podcast up to now come to the next phase of, okay, we've talked a lot about the journey, we've talked a lot about rude awakening, the inspiration that we got from the quotes, coming to the place of magic or bust. You have permission. How much longer are we going to talk about all of this?
Yeah, and it's it's a great tool for us to reflect on. When we said this 1,000 times, all roads lead to the same inner sanctum. That's magic. That's knowingness. That's synchronicity. But that's also surrender.
Yeah.
That's almost the permission. Once the human gets out of the way and says you have permission, it surrenders, and you surrender into a bigger part of yourself that you then bring in. Um, and there's nothing more to it. All actions that I take, even though it feels like a detour or delay or bad feedback, right, all lead me to that same point. So now that I know this, I might as well just head straight for,
Yeah.
I don't need the detour because I know exactly where I'm going and how to do it. Just granting myself or getting the permission of the human part that's completely confused to surrender, like we do in the movie. Like a guy with a sword is running towards you, and you just sit down and you drop your weapons. And the mind is a very powerful tool slash weapon. So, and in answer to your question, like, what do we talk about? I think the next logical step is talking with other people,
Yeah.
and changing, exchanging stories like we do with each other. But I have not a lot of questions anymore. I think the dynamic of this new phase is really, really clear. I think the only thing is getting out of my own way and doing it. Tiring itself out, letting it speak, letting it be confused, sometimes lamenting, oh, the good old days. They weren't really good old days.
No.
But again, the hopeful romantic, it's
Yeah.
also romantic about the past.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the next step is really inviting other people to come on the show and talk about their experience, because we pretty much had the same path, but there could be wonderful stories out there of people just, almost like you want to make a movie about it, the path that they walk. But ultimately, I think they would end up in the same spot as us, just through maybe different journey or different
Yeah.
expressions.
And again, sharing how important it is. The feedback that has reached us through emails and comments on social media, it's been overwhelmingly positive. That you guys just feel, okay, here is somebody who says what I've been feeling, and somehow noticing that there's a red thread running through all of our experiences. There's this theme where you can almost say, like, okay, I'm having a shitty day, you're having a shitty day, here's 10 other people having a shitty day. Let's look at the bigger picture. The bigger energy works, the bigger magic is really at play, and it is showing up constantly as a new reference. So the more we talk about it, the more we remind each other of it's here already. That really, stops the whole narrative of the mind wanting to be separate,
Yeah.
wanting to be, like, oh, you see, I'm lonely and nobody understands me, nobody gets me. I'm the poor me, and everybody else is just having this fantastic life. And no, it's not. It's everybody is going through their trials and tribulations. So we're hoping that we could bring a little bit more relatability and a little bit more understanding to the journey that you might be having to. And we're super happy to hear from you. And you could write to us on our podcast email, podcast@rudeawakening-film.com. We're feeling that this season 1 of our Rude Awakening podcast is coming to an end, but don't despair. There's much more goodness coming up, and we are in the process of figuring out what the next steps are.
Yeah, absolutely. And we feel after next week's episode, which will be episode 10, we feel that is the wrap up of the first season.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to continue this because it's just too
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah.
But the format might change a little bit, and we might actually just like flow with the dynamics of the actual journey as it's unfolding for a lot of people, rather than keep talking about rude awakening. So there might be, different topics. We might ask some of you to be on our show, but that will be, I think that will all be clear over time what that will do.
Absolutely. What do you need permission for, Jonathan? Can I grant you permission for anything?
I feel permission just to have fun and not have a reason to have fun.
Granted.
Thank you. That was easy.
Yeah.
Should have done this 9 years ago. And then get mad at you for like, you waited 8 years. How dare you? And for you? No, you're not going to get off that easily.
No, okay. Permission to claim my own self-responsibility in all of this. The whiny days are over. The wine days are coming. Cheers. Now, I really feel, I'm getting to the point where I just want to be in life and experience it and communicate with all life around me. This is who Sandra is. Sandra is a hopeful romantic because she's living it, not waiting for it anymore.
Permission granted.
Thank you so much. If any of you feel that you need a little bit of guidance, or just to be in a space where somebody listens to you, because you might not have the beautiful gift of a Jonathan or a Sandra next to you, you can also contact me, Sandra, or Jonathan, and just maybe come into that place of having half an hour of a coaching breathing session. I also offer that, and we would like to explore with you guys what's the topics that get you going. So maybe put this out there that next week's topic is the audience suggestion.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've done enough talking for 9 episodes. So the 10th, I feel, is going to be a really nice wrap up of the season. But
Yeah.
let's let our I was going to say viewers, that might be coming next too. Hint, hint, hint. But let our listeners come up with
Yeah.
what's the wrap up topic? What's
Yeah.
the last topic of episode 10?
Yeah, absolutely. As ever, Rude Awakening is available to watch for free on our website, rudeawakening-film.com. There's also the premium package if you still want to hear some people talk about their journey. Go to our website as well and click on the bonus pack, and you can see how much goodness is in there. Share and have a beautiful weekend.
Enjoy your weekend. Bye.
Bye.